Hello and welcome back to another episode of Games and Thoughts. I am Michael.
And I'm Traxton.
And today we are going to be talking about cell phones, their history, how they've kind of shaped the world along with technology as a whole. So yeah, just to start, how do you think that cell phones have changed our lives in the recent, really since the early 2000s up until now? It's only been about 20 years that and even less actually, that we've had this device that can access the internet, like, pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, I guess just in my own life, I've noticed a lot how, how central the cell phone is, like, just to my everyday life. Like, it's just this thing that's basically, it's not attached to us, but it's really as close as you can get without being attached to us, because everyone just has them all the time. Like, it's a big deal if someone takes time away from their cell phone, you know?
Yeah. It's funny, like, looking at, like science fiction movies or, like, TV shows from, like, the 80s or 90s, and people have, like, these little personal assistant devices, and it's like, oh, we totally have that now.
Yeah, although I find Siri to be the least useful part of my iPhone.
Oh, yeah, I'm not into that whole, like, AI life.
Yeah.
I never use the voice Google thing.
Right, yeah. I don't really see the value at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess just to continue on cell phones in general, like, you just use it for literally everything now. Like, maybe you wake up and watch a YouTube video, and then you start texting somebody, and then, just throughout the entire day, you almost forget it's there.
Yeah. And, like, we did not have that 100 years ago at all.
Right, it raises questions about, like, how good this is for us, because it's designed to take advantage of all these evolutionary perks, like, dopamine hits and reward systems and everything, but we don't really take into account the ultimate consequences.
Yeah. So, I guess, do you see them as a good thing or a bad thing? Like, in general?
Everything has its ups and downs. If you're talking about, like, connectivity, like, it's good. Obviously, it's much easier to communicate with people, but it's also harder to communicate with people. Like, I think there's a real lack in social skills as a result of technology.
Yeah, I actually agree with that a lot. Like, it connects us, but it also kind of divides us, because if we're growing up with this technology where we don't actually have to, like, sit face to face with someone and talk to them, or, like, I'm not a qualified psychologist or anything, but I kind of think that yeah, like you said, those social skills don't develop exactly like they should.
Yeah, and I think to go with that further, like, kind of like internet culture is constantly driving people apart because of that lack of, like, when you leave an angry comment on a YouTube video, you don't see the person on the other end who reads it. It's like the lack of social cues results in just terrible behavior.
Yeah, I think that I don't actually have an answer to whether or not it's good or bad. I know that, like, the last time my phone broke and I was without a cell phone for like a few days, it was actually kind of relaxing. Because, like, it sucked the first couple of days because I didn't have, like, the internet and I couldn't, like, text anyone or anything. But once you get over that, I guess, like, the withdrawal stage, it's kind of peaceful, like, not having to worry about people texting you back or that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a huge source of stress. Like,
Yeah.
It's this little thing that you have to check all the time to make sure, you know, someone hasn't talked to you. Like, it's possible today for someone who's 30 miles away from you to get angry at you for not talking to them.
Yeah.
like that's never been a thing in human history. Like, it used to be if someone wasn't right next to you, you couldn't talk to them. So there was no room for, like, friction in your relationship to grow just because of, you know, not talking.
Yeah, so, like, culture has kind of evolved with technology in that respect, where, like, yeah, if you don't respond to some people within, like, an hour or two, they get offended. Where back in the 1800s, like, dad or someone would go on a trip for, like, a month, and you would get, like, 1 or 2 letters from him, maybe.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, I don't know what it's like to be in that situation, obviously, but I think that may have resulted in stronger bonds. I mean, there's this phenomena of, like, just saturated conversation that you can get to with people if you're connected all the time, where it's like you just kind of run out of things to talk about, and then maybe they're actually there instead of just being, you know, texting, and you just don't know what to say because you've already been texting for the last week.
And I think that might be partly due to, like, now we have fewer responsibilities as a society, so we have, not only do we have more time to talk, but we also have, like, more accessibility to talk on our phones and everything. But also, I think you mentioned, like, the difference between talking on the phone and talking in real life. There's definitely a difference between those two things. Something is like, something is different in your brain when you don't actually get to see their, like, eyes and how they're reacting to what you're saying. When you just write your thoughts down and, like, you don't see the consequences of your actions.
Right.
It's definitely different. I think that, like, speaking digitally, whether it's, like, instant messenger or, like, texting or whatever, is definitely a crutch for people with social anxiety, such as myself. But it's not a good thing. It's actually kind of a bad thing, because then we just kind of rely on, like, texting or just talking online, and yeah, we don't develop those social skills. So it's like there's like an initial social anxiety thing, but then the crutch of technology like halts any progress and like doesn't actually advance anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a real lack of human connection that results from technology. And I'm not sure how we can take the good without the bad. Like, it seems like the more technology advances, the more we're going to be driven into these just little boxes of not communicating with each other.
Yeah. So just the last thing we're gonna have to go over quickly, but do you think it's true that people can get addicted to their phones?
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely is a physiological, like, you are getting pleasure chemicals released in your brain when you check, I don't know, whatever social media makes you happy. If your tweet gets a bunch of likes or whatever, like,
Mm-hmm.
your brain will respond to that. So it's definitely plausible that people can just become super attached to that and need it in order to function.
Yeah, and I think that there might be like, yeah, you said like the happy chemicals in your brain or something. I think there's definitely like a power rush from having the entire internet at our disposal at all times, and that's probably where like people on the internet get so opinionated, is because if they have a question they can just Google it, and so they get the feeling of like, I know everything.
Yeah, and I mean, everyone's presented as like being equal, like as far as status. Like, in a YouTube comment section, there's no real difference among, like, everyone can pretend to be an expert.
So I believe that is time. Is there anything else you wanted to add about what you think about cell phones or the rise of technology or the internet in general?
I mean, just go outside, people. It's good for you.
Yeah. I would say, in the words of Uncle Ben, with great power comes great responsibility.
All right, yeah, I think that about does it.
Mm-hmm. That is all for this episode. Be sure to tune in next time and check out our social media links in the description, and we will see you next time.